Today, we talk about... Welcome back, episode 39, I think this is. Another special guest. You know him as DJ Dramos. Do you have any other pseudo names?
Is, the beard, maybe? I don't know. Nothing. Nothing cool.
I heard fuckboy recently.
Yeah, that might be the one people know me as more recently.
Which I would love to get some details on that because I was watching the cover. I'm like, what is this? But
absolutely.
Anyway, no. Producer on The Breakfast Club,
yes.
obviously. Radio personality in New Jersey, Connecticut, right?
Yeah, and in New York.
And New York.
Yep.
A DJ for Z100.
Yep.
Club DJ.
Yep.
Music producer. Former R&B singer attempter.
Maybe, yeah. In like 5th grade, probably, I think.
Beats and Booze podcast.
Yes.
That's the one you do.
Yep.
And also you have a new one, live podcast, Dream Dealers.
Yeah, Dream Dealers podcast is my new one.
Okay. And also a Tampa Bay Bucks fan.
I am.
Red is also my favorite color. So
nice.
And I'm a Niners fan, actually. So,
okay.
So it's kind of red, too. And from what I hear, you're putting out an EP soon, maybe?
Yes, working on an EP. Hopefully, like next month, it'll come out as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm learning, like, this whole interview game, podcast game, like, what are, like, do's and don'ts? And one of the don'ts I learned is don't plug everything at the end because no one listens to everything.
I mean, I will say, though, kudos to you. You know a lot of shit already about me. So I'm curious as to how you do certain things, but that's different.
Because I'm autistic and I can pay attention to long interviews.
Good.
I was watching this or listening to this interview you had. The only, like I said, when we were doing the shoe segment, the only other interview I could find of you, because I wanted to know a little bit about you before you come on here, is from, I forgot his name already, but it was just like a one of these Miami DJs.
Yeah. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
God damn it, I feel so bad.
Actually,
I don't remember
have it
his
right
name.
here. I should just pull it up.
Damn it, what's his name? Oh, it's like Music Biz podcast, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And what was it? It was DJ Dramos interview. And where was it? I know it was here somewhere. Breakfast Club. Because it didn't even have a visual, so I wasn't even sure if it was you at first. Right. But then, DJ Vibes with DJ Dramos.
Yeah, that was it. That's right.
So I was listening to that, trying to get a better picture of what you're about and all that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I had obviously some questions I wanted to ask you because I wanted to get like the basic stuff out of the way. But
absolutely,
clearly, my main understanding of who you were was sitting next to DJ Envy.
Right, the guy sitting next to Envy on the Breakfast Club. Yeah,
always getting clowned by Charlamagne.
Right, always something.
So I want to know, like, what are your top 3 favorite guests that have been on Breakfast Club?
Man, okay. Off the get, I have to say J-Lo, because she is a gorgeous human being. Yeah. Bro, but like I was
still somehow.
Yeah, dude. I she's an anomaly of like, I don't know, science, but
right.
I was never a big like J-Lo fan as far as like, my top 5 women or whatever. Right. But when I saw her in person, like that was one of the first like few times I've gotten like starstruck where I know what the hell to do. Okay. Yeah, even now talking about it, like thinking about it, like, I kind of trip it up a little bit. J-Lo is amazing in person.
Yeah, she seemed like a nice person.
Yeah, she was cool. She was chill. I mean, she was doing this forever, so she's super like pro, very media trained.
You don't get this far in the game without knowing what the fuck you're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So she knows what the hell she's doing. I would say outside of that, Tekashi 6ix9ine. Yeah, I mean, dude, he aside from being a character, he was just like a genuinely nice guy when he was up there.
I had that impression of him. I'm like, this is so clearly a professional troll.
Right.
That like, similar to J-Lo, you have to like kind of have a cog there to know like, okay, I know when to turn it on for this, how to do this, but also behind all this, I'm just like an okay person. Right. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know the guy.
I mean, obviously he's gotten into some extracurricular activities outside of music, but I mean, in like...
Yeah, regardless of his rap shit.
Right, regardless of like the murders that he's allegedly connected to, but, like when he was just out, like chilling in like our lobby area, he was just like a regular dude, like really nice, take pictures of everybody, that kind of thing, so... He was cool, man. He was surprised. I think it's because I was surprised at how normal he was and like how much of just like a good dude he was. That's why it was a good interview.
Interesting.
And I would have to say the other one that just comes to mind is Soulja Boy. Because that was just that was like the start to our new year, like 2019. Everybody just got back from vacation, and it was just like such a gigantic moment that like everybody from SNL was quoting it. You know what I mean? So and it being in that room, it was just hilarious. Like he had us all just dying in there. So it was like it was one of those moments. You're not gonna forget. It was hilarious.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of interesting because obviously you get a lot of big names. Mm-hmm. Clearly, you guys are one of, if not the biggest syndicated radio show currently, right?
Yeah, it's like 100 markets around the country,
Yeah,
all on like all the Navy ships as well, and even on YouTube alone, our numbers are crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And from what I understand, you operate the entire soundboard for every episode, right?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, since we're nationally syndicated, we have the local New York board, which is in the other room, and the studio I'm in with everybody is our national side. So I'm basically controlling like all 100 stations at the same time, essentially. So if I fuck up there, it fucks everything up around the country.
Right. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. So I'm controlling all that, all the sound bites, the board, their mics, everything like that, editing, interviews and when callers come in and stuff like that on the fly as well. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, to the naked eye, you just look like you're just sitting there.
Yeah, everybody's like, what is it? I want this guy's job. He just does nothing and sits there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's your level of like when fans of the Breakfast Club, do they recognize you? Do they constantly approach you, nag you about certain things? Like, what's the pros and the cons of like?
I mean, I get a lot more mixtapes sent to me than I would like probably, okay. But I mean, it's interesting to me because I think anybody that takes the time to recognize me, you have to be a real fan of the show. You know what I mean? So like anybody that is, knows who the hell I am, that's exciting to me because that means you really appreciate what we're doing. Yeah. So it's cool, man. Everybody's usually pretty cool. Like I haven't gotten like any threats or anything like that. I haven't had the Charlemagne treatment yet. So I mean, it's been good, and people are more just like excited and curious about the show, and I can relate to that because I was a fan of it prior to ever even getting into radio.
Right.
So I can relate to anybody just like wanting to know about it because it is amazing.
Okay, and it's. Because a platform that big, I figure like it's got to get to your head to some level too. Like, oh man, I should be able to DJ anywhere, like whatever.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still the guy just sitting in the back, but I'm cognizant of that. I think at the end of the day, I'm more just grateful because it's been such a long road to even get to this point. It's like even like in general having a full-time job in radio and like having health benefits and things like that, like is hard to get to. But to have it on, my favorite show that I had no plan, like no idea that I would ever even get in the room with them, is just incredible. So it's like hard to kind of get cocky with that, And also when you're next to Envy and Charlemagne and Yee, these are people that are wildly successful and like you see their work ethic and you have so much more room to grow. Yep. And also they're really good at humbling you as well, So there is that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, because Charlemagne's a fucking character. Dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I got to be honest with you, I don't watch Breakfast Club as much as I used to. I used to watch it all the time.
Yeah.
So now I'll catch like things that catch my interest as far as like thumbnails and whatnot. But I'm more leaning, especially with how Charlemagne goes, is towards Brilliant Idiots and like that whole podcast from. I feel like he's a lot more raw in those conversations than maybe you're allowed to be at the Breakfast Club.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, man, like because this is a podcast. Yep. But you're on syndicated radio, but also do podcasts. Right. So like, what's been your impression of like how that transition's happening or where you see a role for each or pros and cons of each? Like,
I mean, I think definitely podcasts are the present and future, you know what I mean? And not to say that radio would necessarily go away, but I think you'll start seeing, we're syndicated in 100 cities, so that means there's 100 cities where they don't have a local morning show, you know what I mean? So we're their morning show. And I think you'll start seeing that the bigger figures will kind of start having control over the market and it'll be less and less kind of local people as well. But I mean, I think podcasts, I think there's just sort of there's two worlds that exist. I mean, both can coexist. You have kind of just casual radio listener, who just drives to work in the morning, and for them, they just kind of want the current events.
Yeah, and that's what it was for me back when I was driving. I was like, yo, let me get the Breakfast Club on, and this is my morning commute.
Yeah, and it's a little bit edgier than other radio, so it's fun to listen to. And then for those of us who want to kind of deep dive into things and really just kind of like have no boundaries, the podcast kind of fulfills that as well. Yeah. I think the beauty of the podcast is you can do it literally anywhere. I mean, we're doing it right here, in your living room kitchen. You know what I mean? So I think that's the beauty of it, and that's sort of like why they can both kind of coexist. Now, if you're asking me where do I personally see myself, I think for what I want to do, I would say podcast would probably be more in line with that, just because it kind of have the freedom to whenever, and to say whatever the hell I want to say.
Right. Yeah. Do you feel restricted or do you feel like the guys and girls at the Breakfast Club feel restricted? Do you get that sense, or do you think it doesn't really matter to them? Like,
I don't think that they're necessarily restricted. Obviously, they can't say everything that they would say on a podcast, but they still find creative ways to say it without saying it. You know, I think to me that's also part of the comedy and like the entertainment of it. It's like they're gonna find a way to like make a sex joke without getting in trouble. You know, and they're gonna push that line.
Right.
You know,
especially Charla.
Yeah, right? I mean, sometimes he curses him with like dump it. You know what I mean? It's like dude, he's doing this for so long. You know not to curse.
Right.
But I mean that's like the fun of it. You know, and I think that they are really good at, you know, even knowing that, you know, there are, you know, boundaries to play in, but still not letting it, you know, affect their personality and their rawness. I think if you listen to a lot of other radio, they'll hide their mistakes. Where the Breakfast Club, if like one of us fucks up, they're gonna call it out on the air, you know. Right. So like that still is able to showcase their personality, and that's like something that's very raw still in itself. That's like something that they teach you not to do in radio, basically, you know.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to break the rules to like stand out, right?
Yeah,
that's probably why you guys are so successful, you know.
Right, exactly. I mean, even if you kind of think about Howard Stern, in my opinion, was better when it was on regular radio because it was like it was tongue in cheek, like you didn't know if was he gonna get in trouble, was he not, you know. And then when he had the free for all, I think it lost a lot of steam, you know. And this isn't like a shot at Howard Stern, but
nah, we coming for you, Howard.
Yeah, shots fired, bro.
Damn it, I wish I had my bullets.
Good shots. But I mean, you know, I think there is like there is a comedy to kind of like pushing the envelope a little bit.
For sure. And I was gonna ask actually, what's some things about the Breakfast Club that you wish more people understood, or you feel like is the most misunderstood about Breakfast Club, like behind the scenes things that people wouldn't really appreciate unless they were like there every day, day in, day out, behind the scenes.
I mean, I think, you know, there are some of the most hardworking people that I've ever met. You know, I think you don't see that like Envy will DJ a club on a Monday night and come straight to the radio station, sleep in the back room for an hour, and then sit down and do a 4-hour radio show. Right. And we're talking about somebody who's like who's a millionaire doing that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like this isn't like some kid on his grind. You know, this isn't me.
He's got
like
a family. He's got a bunch of kids.
Yeah, like, 5 kids. You know, that kind of thing. I think. You know, and so seeing how hard workers they are and how intelligent they are, and I think, you know, they're so self-aware of like what they're doing. You know what I mean? Right. It's incredible to watch people just operating at such a high level. And I think at the end of the day, I think, you know, what might not come across, a lot of people like, oh, Charlamagne an asshole, is he in person, that kind of thing. He's a genuinely good dude, you know. Yeah. And I think a lot of times he gets himself in trouble or like pushes the edge because his sense of humor is he likes to make you uncomfortable, and that's his sense of humor. Like it's not like a personal attack; it's just funny to him. You know what I mean? So like, and it's off mic, on mic, he's the same person. That's what he does. You know. Oh, man. So I think that people misconstrue that.
Yeah. Do you spend much time with those guys outside of? Because I know like DJ Envy is like you know, not only an inspiration for you, but like a mentor with a lot of different things. But even with the others, do you find yourself spending a lot of time with them? Not so much. They're like, nah. As soon as I'm done here, I got to run to do my DJing, my podcasting, my book writing, my family stuff, like whatever, you know.
It's tough, man. I think I definitely would like to be able to spend more time, but you know, I have so much going on.
And I'm sure you have enough going on too.
Yeah, I mean, I have a million things going on. You know, I mean, you know, it's definitely like a goal of mine, I would say, to just be able to like, you know, go out to more of events that they're doing and things like that, and just spend a little more time outside of the building. But I just have so much shit. Like honestly, you know, we'll get done with our interviews in the morning, and then I go run and like record my podcast, or I have to go do this or do whatever it is, you know. So it is tough. So I don't get to spend that much time, but like we'll hang out and kind of bullshit after the show sometimes, and you know. But it's definitely something that's on my like goal to like. I just have to be more present, I guess, in it. Because I think it's easy to kind of get caught up in everything you're doing, and then you kind of like are missing little moments. You know what I mean? Like you're missing like the blessing that you get to be around these people, and I think it's anytime I can take extra time to soak up more game from them, I should take advantage of that. You know.
Yeah. And then along the same lines, how, you know, because you're spending time with them obviously during the show.
Yep.
How are these guests, you know, that we briefly mentioned some of your favorites, but like how are these people getting booked? Is it just like, oh, Charlamagne really is intrigued by this guy, he wants him on, or DJ Envy has a friend who's putting out an album soon, let's get him on here? Like how what's the booking process like?
It's a combination of all those things. It's also people pitching. So we have Eddie F.
I'm sure agents reach out to you.
Yeah, exactly. So Eddie F. is the executive producer. So he'll get pitched certain people, and then he'll kind of come in the room and be like, hey, guys, any interest in this person? This is what they have going on, blah, blah. And then, you know, Envy, Charlamagne, they're all like they're always on the cusp of like, you know, oh, I think this guy's really cool. I want to have him on the show. So it's all a combination of a lot of different things like that. Like they're all bringing people to the table constantly as well. It's not just them sitting back and waiting.
Yeah. And I was going to say, what do you think it was about the whole Tekashi situation that made it so interesting? Why is that the biggest viewed episode for you guys? Like why?
Man, I think I think because the interesting sort of dynamic was like, I feel like they didn't come at him from like a way of trying to clown him. You know what I mean? They were coming at him almost like, let's understand your point of view, you know? And I think that interview, they did a really good job, especially the second one. They did a really good job of like balancing that out of like, you know, allowing him to be himself and setting him up to be funny, but also kind of like talking to him as a real human being, you know? And I think a lot of people with guys like him just want to get that moment. They want that viral moment. Right. And, you know, they don't take the time to actually, you know, like try to figure this kid out, you know, like, like I said, I think that second interview, I told a lot of people who hated on him before, like watch that interview, because that's going to change your perspective of him. And I think that they did a good job of just making him comfortable and like, you know, realizing like, we're not trying to clown you. Like we generally just want to see, you know, what your deal is, you know what I mean? And I think he was able to express a lot more of his personality in those interviews, you know, that's what I think.
And what's like the, again, behind the scenes, as far as like how much prep do these guests get with, you know, we're going to do like a pre-talk warm-up off air for like 5 minutes, or like you meet in the green room with them for a little bit. Oh, what do you want to talk about today? Like what's the inner goings of that? Like how much of that is involved?
They get zero prep and they literally just walk in the door and like it's
nice to meet you. Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, you know, obviously at this point they have relationships with most people that are coming in, you know. They've met people, they've interviewed them, or they just know them somehow. But yeah, like the guests aren't really prepped on anything, you know. They don't like the PR person might be like, hey, let's not talk about this kind of thing. They literally will ignore that. And like if you tell that to Charlemagne, that he's going to make sure he asks that question. You know what I mean? So like, it's kind of, you know what you're getting into as a guest. Like, you know, they're going to ask the questions that they want to ask. And, you know, you have to just be prepared for it, really. They're not going to, like, warn you about anything. It's just like, this is, you know, what we want to talk about, we're talking about. You know, they're not afraid to ask those hard questions. Right.
And speaking of hard questions, so I did want to switch gears a little bit before I forget to ask you about, like, I saw this tagged on your Instagram, DJ Dramos on Instagram, by the way. Plug. But no, I noticed that you also have tagged like a vintage page. Is that your vintage clothing line? Or?
Yeah. So I'm huge into like vintage clothing. I've been a big collector for a while. That's so Cult Classics is just like I
can tell by the whole Bulls.
Old school stuff. But yeah, so I mean, I've it's just my own little like clothing store online. And honestly, for me, I'm a big, like the people say you have to have like 7, you know, sources of income, right? That's what like, you know, successful people have who are independently successful. So I'm always just looking for ideas on things I could do. And it's just like, for me, it's like, it's cool because I enjoy going vintage shopping and clothing shopping. And like, even if I'm not necessarily finding things in my size, it's exciting to be able to have a reason to buy it still, you know what I mean? Right. And it's just interesting to me. It's like collecting art, and you know, if I get tired of something, I'm like, I don't wear it as much anymore. It's cool to be able to kind of flip it and also just like, I guess it also shares my style with other people as well. You know, like my eye is my eye, you know, so it's cool to be able to put that out there and see if other people kind of fuck with it as well. Right.
And then relating that to shoes and sneakers and your sense of style for sneakers. So from what I was noticing on your page, a lot of Reebok Classic, Adidas Continental, saw some Filas. Yeah. So like, I feel like you're definitely latching onto almost like that pure 90s.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I got really lucky that once I kind of like, I had always been into vintage clothing, but once I got super heavy into like really just collecting it and like, you know, it became my closet, that like this whole wave of just like reissuing classic sneakers kind of came out. And yeah, I've just been diving into all of it, you know.
How long has that been going on now?
So I started really like, I would say where my closet has become completely vintage, probably like 3 years maybe.
3 years, okay.
Yeah. And then at the time, it was a little bit harder to find certain things. Like I think Reebok had just reissued the pumps, so I was able to get those. Right. So that was one of my go-to sneakers at the time. The Cortezes and the Forrest Gump ones were like the one that came out around that time. Okay. I think that kind of really started to push the people reissuing stuff. But it was like tough to want to find the accuracy to like 90s sneakers. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then the Reebok Classics, obviously. But yeah, so this is probably within the last 3 years, and then like out, you know, over the last year and a half, 2 years, everybody's just reissuing all their old stuff.
Do you feel like it's in the past 3 years where you've started to take a lot more seriously, has that changed your sense of sneaker style, or do you feel like you always had like a similar style as far as what you were wearing?
Yeah, it definitely changed my sneaker style. I think I was big on Vans for a while. Okay. And I would always like have like a couple of fresh pairs of Vans in my closet. I'm trying to think outside of that. that was probably always my go-to sneaker was like Vans, like, like the skate highs, just like the regular classics, maybe like I don't know, like slip-on or two, like the checkered ones. But yeah, those were always like my go-tos, and outside of that, it was like whatever cool sneaker kind of caught my eye. You know, I didn't really have.
Yeah, speaking of cool sneakers, like what? Because I noticed you're not huge on the hype train as far as like, oh, all the kids want this. This also popping for me. What has there been any sneaker that was hyped, quote unquote, that you really wanted and either didn't get or did get or what? Like,
definitely we were talking about this in the video, the Red Octobers.
Okay.
But also the Sean Witherspoons, the original, the first ones. Right. I just thought they were really cool, kind of really cool concept. And I've seen him putting pictures up of like, I guess his second version, the ones that kind of rip away the corduroy. Yeah. I want those. I definitely want to get those. But yeah, I would say those are like the only hyped ones that I've been like,
gotcha.
I wish actually the Kung Fu Kenny Cortez as well.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Are you a big Kendrick fan?
I like Kendrick. I wouldn't call myself a giant fan. I love the first probably 2 albums. I haven't been like crazy over the other ones, but I just think the concept is dope. Like, it's a classic sneaker, and then he kind of reimagined it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now that you mentioned the Sean Witherspoons, like I'm like, duh, that fits perfectly for you, because he's kind of like in the same lane, vintage, right? Round 2. Yeah,
I think that probably has something to do with it. Like him also just kind of being I guess an icon in that world is somebody that I look up to, and I appreciate like what he's been able to turn his obsession with vintage into as well.
Right. Actually, have you ever thought about taking your vintage part of your, I guess business, for lack of another, or brand, I should say? Like, have you ever thought to mesh that with Breakfast Club as far as like, if you maybe have a cool guest and you're like, oh, why don't I introduce them to maybe some pieces they may be interested in, maybe establish some relationships? Because I've seen some of these online videos of like exclusive vintage like brokers, basically. They're going to Kanye's house and giving him vintage stuff and whatever. It's just like, all right, I guess this is the thing now.
Definitely, for sure. It's something that's on my mind, and definitely I'm like, I have to remind myself, like, you have to do that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think in the future, as I kind of start maybe diving more into it, for me, it's kind of become just like a secondary thing. But I think I'm definitely gonna start putting aside more like of the rare stuff, and once I start building the name up a little bit more, I'll probably start diving into that.
Yeah, because you have this amazing opportunity where you're exposed to some of the coolest, most influential people in our lifetime, and it's just like, just right at the table with you every day.
I know, man. And it's funny because I'll get like one of them to be like, yo, that's a fire jacket or something like that. And I'm like, oh, thanks, man. And then after they leave, I'm like, shit, I should just like, why didn't I get his info and be like, dude, I have a lot of pieces like this. I can maybe send you some stuff.
Get your head in the game.
I know, bro. I know. I'm always so like, I don't want to overstep my boundary. I'm like that kind of person. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, it's something, I'm glad you reminded me of that. I'm going to keep that. If I got one thing from this podcast, is I need to set my game up in that realm
right now.
No, for sure. You're right. I absolutely do. Just kind of get that together.
It's just whatever you're wearing that day, just rip it off your back.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing too, because a lot of times it's like one-off stuff, and it's like, I know I can make a lot of money, but then like my heart is like hurting. I don't want to give it up. It's like my favorite jacket.
But that just shows that you're really passionate about it. So clearly, there's something there for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely like, even as you're saying, I can think of a couple guys. I'm like, I should really be pitching these guys. Yeah,
bingo.
So, appreciate you.
Damn, I need the soundboard to work. God damn it. Fuck. All right, we'll fix it for the next one, or maybe if we have you back next time, we'll have a much more professional setup. Although this is already a big upgrade for me.
Listen, man, I like it. I dig it.
So when did you start your other podcast?
So Beats and Booze, that was the first one I started. That one, that was probably 3 years ago, I want to say.
3 years ago.
Yeah, okay. 2 or 3 years ago. That one was just like, it's more of an EDM based podcast, but we've started to interview a lot of other people outside of that. But that was the initial start, because we kind of saw there was nobody in New York in our company that was bothering to interview a lot of these really big DJs that were coming through.
Are you a big EDM fan though?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a fan of all music.
Actually, as a DJ, I feel like that's got to be like half your catalog.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love it, but I mean, I love everything. But I would always go down to like Miami for like the Miami Music Week, and like you're wearing an 11 shirt right now. Like I was hanging out those things. I was involved in that world. And then, it was just kind of like, well, nobody's doing it. We want to start a podcast, me and a couple of the guys I would travel with. And we're just like, well, nobody's doing that. And my Flips, who is also my manager, he pitched the idea of like, hey, I've always wanted to do an EDM thing. I have a couple of contacts, because he would also he worked for the iHeart's EDM station, which is like our online platform.
Right.
But even when they brought people up, it wasn't an interview. It was just kind of like they would cut like liners basically, and that was it. They would just be like, "Hey, it's Sander Van Doorn, and you're listening to Evolution," and that was all they would come up to do.
Gotcha.
So he was like, "I have like these people's emails, like, and they come up. We can just try to get them to do an interview." And like that's when everything kind of just started rolling. Like it was so much easier than we thought it was going to be. And yeah, so that started 3 years ago, and that like just opened up so many doors and so many pathways, for what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah, because I noticed that because you had like Alesso on.
Yeah.
You had, but I also saw like Joji was on there too.
Yeah, we had Joji, like the whole 88 Rising guys who have had G-Eazy on there, Lenny Kravitz, which is a random one. But yeah, it was like once we started catching ground with that, like then other people, pop people started hitting us up. They started taking notice, and they're, because a lot of this stuff kind of crosses over as well. Like Selena Gomez has a record with Marshmello, and then that kind of intertwines,
Yeah.
So once people started doing that, they kind of, we built up our name, and especially me DJing for Z100. I had a lot of relationships with those record labels as well. So like once they kind of saw we were doing this, they trusted us, to have their artists come in.
Gotcha. And actually, I want to switch gears over to the DJ thing because you mentioned it. I don't know anything about the DJ world.
Okay.
What I've heard is that it's a dying business.
Yeah.
That it's just it used to be one thing and now it's not. You think of the iconic names of DJs and you don't really hear new upcoming DJs with the same kind of clout. So, what's like the inner world of a DJ and what's involved? Common misconceptions, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's dying. I would say it's a lot more competitive.
Okay.
So when it becomes more competitive, that means prices are more competitive. You know what I mean? Like prices go down, and maybe it's not as lucrative for some people as it once was. You definitely need to have some sort of platform to stand on. I think especially in the New York, New Jersey area, there's so many DJs.
Right.
There's a lot of nightlife, but a lot of cheap people, a lot of cheap bar owners and club owners. So you have to kind of have like, I'm lucky I have the radio platform to, be able to ask for a little bit more money.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, it's definitely a highly competitive game. You have to have something. Definitely producing music will help build up your, platform as well and give them a reason to want to book you. But yeah, I mean, it's not the same as it was, I'm sure, for a lot of guys who were out there DJing, 5 nights a week and doing that. I mean, some people still do that, but it's few and far in between.
How often do you do it?
With my schedule, I usually DJ about twice a week.
Okay.
But and honestly, I don't even mind doing it that much. I think I would probably shoot myself if I was doing it 5 days a week. But I mean, it's tough, and it's also the genres changed. So like EDM had that boom, and everybody was DJing EDM,
Right.
and then hip hop made a comeback, so people started DJing that, and those who weren't able to make that transition kind of started to fall off. You know, so definitely if you didn't have the skill of being able to DJ all kinds of genres, then it's harder for you out there right now for sure. Right. And I'm lucky that I was just always a fan of everything, and I always kind of wanted to figure out how to do whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say I want to know your answer to the common misconception, or I always hear it as a joke amongst musical friends of mine who just don't either respect DJs and or like EDM type DJs, like your Alessos, your Avicii's, rest in peace.
Absolutely.
He they treat it just like because a lot of my friends who are musically inclined, play guitar, play drums, whatever, they're just like a lack of respect for like that part of it where they're just like, yo, the guy just shows up and boom, hits the button.
I love this question. So I grew up playing drums in a band. So I was.
So he's legit, folks.
Yeah, I was a quote unquote real musician. But I think if you're looking at it from that perspective, then you're looking at it from the wrong lens. So a DJ, I'm not like, playing guitar or playing drums, but my instrument is sort of like more so it's a way of creating energy in a room. You know what I mean? Like a good DJ knows how to curate the vibe of a room and like without people telling him.
I was going to say, that's the thing that's impressed me most about DJs, because I remember I've gone to parties where there's a DJ and they're either taking requests or like trying to shove people out of the way that are being assholes, right? And you're dealing with all that. Plus, you're like trying to feel out the energy of a room and be like, okay, what song needs to follow which? And like, I'm sure there's a lot of thought that goes into it that the average club goer doesn't really even
I mean,
think
you have no idea. I mean, like, if you walk to a cold room, basically, like when people are just getting in, like, you have to know how to slowly build it up. You're not playing the hottest records in the club, like, fucking at 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? Like, you have to let the room build. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're only playing old stuff. And it's like, well, it's 10 p.m. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to waste your good
Put
record.
on Tekashi right now.
Yeah, it's like, dude, no. Like, you don't want to walk to a club and, like, it's empty and you're just trying to get your first drink and, like, everything's just, pumping. Like, you have to build up the night. And a good DJ knows how to start building it up. You're watching people's reactions. You're going, off of that. And you're creating the night. I think that's what it is. Like if I'm in a band, you have your set list and you play your set list. If people hate you, they hate you. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. But as a DJ, you have the ability to adjust, and a good DJ adjusts to any situation as it kind of comes up, like whatever the crowd is feeling. And on a given night, like a record that crushed for you the night before might flop the next night, and you have to know how to react to that. You know, you're curating the energy in the room basically, and that's what makes it hard, and that's what makes it interesting. You know, anybody, I could show you how to DJ. You know, in a few weeks, and you can
show up with a Spotify playlist.
Right? Yeah, exactly. You could do that on shuffle, put a Spotify playlist. But you know what, like, if people in the room aren't necessarily feeling that playlist the same way they might have been the other night, then you're fucked because all you have is that playlist. Yeah. So it's like that. That's what makes a good DJ, and that's what makes it different from, like, you know, you're not just a guy pressing play. You're actually a curator, and you're supposed to be. You have to be able to read people's like energy and read their body language, and that's what's kind of tough, you know.
Right. Do you feel like you also factor in random things like you know, a lot of girls here tonight, I gotta play this way, or you know, the fight just broke out, so I gotta, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, the goal, if any like single guy at a club, is to get with a girl, right? So like the girls are who you want to make sure they're having fun. Also, the girls are the ones that are more inclined to start dancing first. So you're playing to them, you know. And once you get like a group of girls dancing, then you're gonna see the guys come over and start, you know, filling the dance floor little by little, and more people are gonna join. So yeah, you're always aiming towards the girls. And just to go back a little bit about the EDM part. I'm not gonna shit on EDM DJs, but like a lot of them were producers first. Then they just needed a way to play music, and then they just play. Then that's what they started picking up DJing. So yeah, I would say a lot of those guys are not. I wouldn't consider them real DJs because they do show up with a pre-planned set. They play it, and that's all they really can do.
Yeah, because that's all you see in the videos. Them just behind this big, massive looking thing like this, and they're just like.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, and listen, there are a lot of them that just do that, and like they can't deviate from it because that's all they know.
Right.
I mean, but you have a guy like Diplo who is both a really good DJ and a producer, and you don't know what the hell you're getting from on a night because he's just kind of going off and doing what he does.
Gotcha.
You know, so yeah, there are a lot of guys who I would say like, yeah, they're just like producers and they press play, you know. And you know what to expect.
And you fucking hate their guts.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck every single one of them.
Yeah, we're not building any bridges today.
No, I mean Hardwell sucks. I will say that.
I mean, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah,
I don't follow music all that closely. Like, I'm the kind of guy who I'll find a song I like on Spotify that just happened to come on, or I overheard from somebody that I Shazam it, and I will play that song ad nauseum forever. We're talking like months. We'll go months to listen to the same one song.
Yeah.
Every day, multiple times a day, it's just on. Like, it annoys people, you know? That's just kind of like my sensibility with music. So I haven't been very musically inclined. But it's kind of interesting the way you're describing the way you like kind of curate the set list and play to the crowd, because I definitely feel that way as a comedian. It's just like I have to read the room. I have to be okay, what jokes are going to work with what crowds? You know what I mean? Like, is this a biker bar? Is this a gay bar? Is this, you know, there are a lot of women here that maybe some Trump jokes won't go over so well.
Yeah. No, dude, it's literally the same exact thing. Right. You have to know your audience without really knowing your audience. You know what I mean? It's like really on the fly type of stuff. You're just adjusting. You know what I mean?
And it's probably a lot more difficult for you because it's not like you get a warm-up act. Like, you are the warm-up act and the closer and everything. Whereas with me, as long as like 2-3 comedians have gone up before me, I can be like, okay, I kind of get the vibe of this room.
Yeah, I mean, it's like hit or miss. Sometimes sometimes there might be an opener where I go somewhere, but also it's like if there's a shitty opener, that makes it even harder.
Is there such a thing as openers for like DJs and stuff?
Yeah. Sometimes you have an opener, and if they're not good, it can really fuck things up because then it's like, well, now you have a packed room, and nobody's having fun. So now I have to I can't even go into like playing good stuff. I have to kind of now go do the beginners, the opener's job, and then get back into my set.
Gotcha.
So that whole thing kind of makes it tough. I mean, the one thing I would say is you may not notice if you're not like really paying attention. You might not notice like how good of a DJ somebody is, but if they're really shitty, you're gonna notice that. You know what I mean? Like if the vibe in the room sucks because of the music, like, you're definitely gonna notice that. You know?
And so you mentioned how you're like trying to play to the girls, and obviously the single guys are trying to hook up. So this is all part of the dynamic. Do you ever work gay clubs or gay bars, and do you notice a different vibe or a different technique that needs to happen as far as like you know, curating?
I DJ on a regular basis at a gay bar in Jersey City, New Jersey, and it's honestly the most fun I have probably DJing. I think that crowd goes to the dance floor earlier. You know what I mean? They don't have to get like wasted to start dancing. You know, I think in that community that they don't have like their inhibitions aren't don't have many. You know, at that point, I think they've. Like I don't want to get too deep into psychology or anything, but like I think they've probably dealt with enough shit of having to like worry about like watching their back or what people think, that at this point they don't give a fuck. Like when they're in their environment, they're free, they're be themselves, and they're just there to have a good time.
Right.
So like they go crazy, and I think for them, what's interesting is I think the gay crowd is very similar to like what I would say the basic white girl crowd is. Like they love the Ariana Grandes, the Cardi B's, the Beyonces, and that kind of shit. Which is cool. But I mean, and they love like house music. But I think it's an interesting dynamic because the older gay crowd definitely wants like the dancier Whitney Houston, that kind of stuff. And then you have like this new younger generation that loves like the Cardi B's and the City Girls and all that twerk stuff. Right. So it's a fun, but it's just fun, honestly. Yeah. People there, it's the most fun. People are there to have a good time. They don't really care. They're not like concerned with how they look, as far as like, oh, my bad dance or anything like that. Like, the dance floor fills up early and people just have a blast until it closes, honestly. Right.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's weird because I remember I'm not a big club goer or anything like that. Even lounges and stuff, like, okay, yeah, I get it. But it's not like my cup of tea, really. But part of that was me going or getting invited for someone's birthday or something, and I just go there. It's like, just, okay, here's 8 of us, most of which we don't know each other. We just kind of know the one guy or girl, and we're all just going to stand here around this table in the dark and like dance to the music. Like, all right, this is fun,
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing about like table bottle service. Like, I'm not. I mean, obviously, I like free alcohol, but it's not the same experience. You're kind of just standing there, unless you're like with a group of people that you really just want to hang out with and kind of talk to. It's, to me, that's not like the way to do a club. It's like you want to be on the dance floor, you want to be in kind of the thick of it all to really like get it and to have a good time. Right. Those are my most fun nights.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like you definitely probably have a different appreciation for it simply from a music perspective too. Because like any of my friends, like I have a friend who used to DJ like just recreationally, and obviously he got super into EDM. He got me into EDM because before that I was just like, what is this?
Right, what is this noise?
And and then I mean, he's always the type to like want to go to a club, but I feel like it lends itself to that kind of environment because of that kind of music being probably more predominant.
Yeah, I mean, I think the dance music is best heard in a club. I mean, to me, that's the only way you really get it is when you see it in like that live environment in a club and you feel the energy of the room. That's when I think people start really, like, I've had friends who weren't into it either, and when they saw it in that setting, they go, shit, I get it now. You know what I mean? It's like it creates energy. I don't know, something about it. You know what I mean?
It must be all the ecstasy too.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the ecstasy and the horny 27-year-olds.
Oh yeah, I've seen some very pretty women there. I'm sure that's definitely a draw too.
Yeah, I mean that helps give you a reason to leave the house.
Man, so I actually want to ask too about do you? So I know you mentioned Off-White and the Virgil Abloh sneaker craze, but. Did you know he DJs too?
Yes.
Do you have opinions on that?
I've seen when he was doing.
Because I've heard he's pretty good.
So I saw him when he was doing the whole Bin Trill stuff. When it was him. What's the other dude? There's like 2 of them that were with him. I can't remember the guy's name. He's also, I think, done some stuff with Kanye. And it was terrible.
C?
Was it
Don C?
It wasn't Don C. No. I can't remember what the hell this guy's name is. He was from New York. I lived in New York.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, when they were doing the Bin Trill stuff, they used to DJ as Bin Trill, basically.
Gotcha.
And it was god awful. I remember seeing that. But this was probably like, I don't even, dude, this is maybe.
Yeah, this is like 2013, I want to say.
Yeah. Yep, right around that time. So like I saw them at Fool's Gold Day Off in Brooklyn. They had like a little festival and they were DJing it and it was terrible.
Wait, time out. What to you makes it terrible? Just the music selection?
They couldn't transition between songs. It was like what we call train wrecking, where it's like the songs aren't synced up. So it's just 2 things playing on top of each other. You know what the fuck's going on. Okay. I'm pretty sure they blew out the speakers just from like probably over cranking everything. So it was just like static going on. It just wasn't. It was obviously very obvious. It was just people that really never really DJ like that. And I mean, I guess as a DJ, you take some sort of offense to it. You know what I mean? Like
this is a disgrace to my art form.
Right? Exactly. Like blood, sweat, and tears in my mom's basement. These guys are on a giant stage. You know what I mean? But I would be. I mean, I've seen videos after. I haven't seen him live since that, but like it seems like he knows his crowds. He's like up on music, which is cool. And I don't have an issue with it. Like I know a lot of people get caught up in like.
No, you have to have an issue with it because that's going to be the clickbait title to this segment.
Yeah, fuck Virgil. That's your soundbite. No, I mean like people get caught up the models that are DJing and this and that, and like I'm like, dude, I get it. It's like it's just you get into it. Like I can understand why.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing with comedians. Like some people are not comedians, but they're famous, so like they can tour off of being a comic. It's like.
Do you have an issue with that?
No, I don't. Because I'm like, if it's funny, people will laugh, and if it's not funny, people won't laugh and they'll know never to see you again. Yeah. But to me, it's like, if you want to build a brand, it's consistency, right? It's the same thing in sports, music, arts, anything. So like Kanye can't just come out with Graduation. You have to come out with all these hits for us to be like, oh, this guy's a legend, right? Yeah. And similarly with comedians, it's like, and additionally, especially nowadays with what we were talking about with podcasts and just like unlimited access to anything, it's like there's no. It's not like it's just ABC, CBS, and NBC anymore. Like it's not like there's a set number of sitcoms. There's a set number of comedy specials that are handed out every year. So if I don't get, if he gets it and I don't get it, then it's more like we all have a lane we can fill. We all have a crowd we can find or a fan base that we can build for ourselves. So I mean, all right, do your thing.
Right.
Best of luck to you. And if it's good, I'm happy for you. If it's not good, you'll realize it quick enough.
Yeah. I mean, I think in 2019, you kind of have to be multifaceted, like even as a musician, you have to create a brand outside of like just your music. Like that's what social media does for a lot of people. It's like there are a lot of people who have, careers as like Joji was like a YouTuber, like his fan base transitioned over, but like he's a multifaceted brand because he's also kind of a personality as well as a musician. And I think that I can understand somebody wanting to extend themselves. That's like me getting mad about that, but now I have like a little vintage clothing store, and I'm gonna, somebody who might have like vintages their life and
so you're like almost like a reverse Virgil.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, reverse Virgil. Exactly. Way better DJ though, but no, but I mean, So
I'm so mad this soundboard's not working now. I want
to
hit you with the super hot fire.
I mean, I can't get mad at it because I have more interest outside of music too. How can I shit on somebody else because they're showing an interest in something else?
Speaking of which, well, actually, I do want to get back to Virgil for a second, but along the same lines, any opinions on Paulie D?
Paulie D.
Because he's got a Vegas residency, touring.
Seems like a really nice guy. I've seen him play once and it was terrible.
Okay. All right.
He for me it was mind-boggling as somebody who was DJing even prior to that. Like it was really bad. It wasn't good. But
again, what was bad about this one?
Same thing. Like couldn't transition between tracks. Yeah, okay. I didn't. The track selection wasn't great. And I mean, we all have off nights, so I would, maybe it's just me, but I've heard other people have seen him too. But like, I feel bad because like he seems like a nice dude. I have like
honestly, I want to hang out with the guy.
Right,
he seems like the time of my life.
Right, exactly. I mean, listen, somebody could see me and have seen me and be like, he sucked. So I mean, like, it's all obviously opinion at the end of the day. Right. But I think also his role isn't necessarily to be a great DJ. It's like to put on
personality.
A show. Yeah,
it's like I want to go see Paulie D. I don't give a shit what the music is.
Yeah, exactly.
It probably appeals to guys like me actually because I'm not like a music connoisseur.
Right, exactly.
So I just know I'm going to see Paulie D, and as long as he doesn't play like I don't know the Baby Shark song 8,000 times, like I'll be good.
You're right. I went like friends who are non-musical and they had a good time. So it's just it's all relative. But I mean I don't like.
So you can't go to see Transformers 2 with like a cinephile and be like, oh, this was not Oscar worthy. I'm like, shit.
Yeah,
bro.
Exactly.
What did you expect?
You're watching a bad horror movie for because it's entertaining, not necessarily because you think it's great acting.
Or the girl's hot in it.
Right, yeah. There's like a lot of boobs in it. So it's like, cool, of course I'll watch it. But I mean, listen, I don't hate on it at all. I think he is a genius the way he transitioned out of that show and like took something he was already doing and blew it up even more.
I would probably say he's the most successful of them all because of that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's smart. It's like, okay, I was given this gift of a platform. Let me do something with it. As opposed to like, let me just make a bunch of club appearances until nobody gives a shit anymore. Because that's lame at the end of the day, where you're just like the guy getting paid at a random club to stand there and do nothing. You know, at least he created a brand. I think he ended up having a deal with G-Unit at the time.
Oh yeah. Records. Actually, I remember right in Times Square there was huge ass billboards of his face.
Yeah, I mean, so he like he really went for it, and he's built up a career from that. I can't like he's no longer relying on just being the guy on the Jersey Shore. He's like building something up, which I can't hate on that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's where it's at, man. That's what you got to do.
Absolutely.
But yeah, back to Virgil. Yeah, I mean, to me, again, me not being musically inclined, just my sense of seeing him DJing, like the crowd clearly seems into it, whether it's because of Off-White or not. It's just like, I don't know. I almost feel like it kind of helps him have a creative diversity to him, so that he can like try and pull ideas from music to fashion to this to that. So I don't know. I'm with it, but
I mean, I think it keeps him in like the thick of it all, culturally, because I mean, he's not just like DJing bullshit places. He's like DJing cool parties, and he's like maybe even some Vegas stuff I think I've seen, but like he's DJing a lot of cool stuff with like influential people. Right. So he's also, I think it puts him in the realm of like his customer as well. It puts him there and seeing like some of the most maybe stylish people in the world at the places he's playing, and he might get inspired by it as well. And so I think it's cool. I'm sure for him it's a lot of fun to do that.
I'm surprised he hasn't come on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're not like, I mean, we were joking about Charlamagne's style before, but they're not super into the fashion world. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how many interviews he does like that, really, I guess, right?
Yeah, I don't, from what I've seen, because, I've done deep dives into his work too. And a lot of the interviews I see are definitely in the more of the fashion world.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like that would be a good platform for him. Although it probably would have made a lot more sense right around the time the whole Nike package was coming out. Although he's still doing
like
a
the
ton
Louis
of stuff.
Vuitton,
I mean, even that. Yeah. So I mean, and I know they've referenced him on like the Rumor Report and several times and whatnot. But yeah, just kind of interesting. I would have expected him to maybe do it, but maybe he doesn't give a shit. I don't know.
I mean, he doesn't strike me as somebody who's like dying to be in front of the camera kind of person. You know what I mean? He kind of just seems he's like likes his lane and does he's like the opposite of Kanye, I guess, kind of. Which is interesting.
Yeah, but even Kanye, I feel like he's gotten away from these public interviews. Although I know Charlamagne got that one dope interview with him, but
I think maybe he was I don't know if he got away out of it because he didn't want to. You know what I mean? It was because it just wasn't a good look for him anymore. You know what I mean? Like I don't because I think Kanye likes talking about Kanye at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think he would ever shy away from it. I think it's just like he goes. I think he also probably feels people are beneath him to a degree. I think, and also. He says some crazy shit whenever he does it.
So here's the thing. Here's my thoughts on that. Okay. Like I listen to the full interviews because again I have the attention span to do so. And as I'm listening, I'm like, I also have a fucked up brain. Yeah. Okay, because that's why I'm a comedian now. Yeah. And part of having fucked up thoughts is understanding a filter you need to put on your tongue before the words come out so that you don't sound like. Yeah. Whatever. Right. So I feel like he's maybe just missing a little part of that sometimes where like he says something. Yeah. I personally am able to look at what he said and be like, okay, clearly he used the absolute wrong word here, but I know what he's trying to say. Right. At least I think I do. Whereas I don't think a lot of people are even able to like discern the difference sometimes. And B, all these different media outlets, maybe you guys included too. I'm not saying specifically, I'm just saying you guys as part of this whole media thing that like puts out like either the radicalized clips of like, yo, check out what he said. You know what I mean? I feel like it suddenly loses all the original intent of the meaning of it, and then he gets screwed out of it, and then eventually he just wakes up. He has to eventually wake up someday and be like, yo, fuck all these guys. I'm going to stop doing interviews. No one understands me. And the people that maybe even do understand me are taking my words and like misconstruing them and then running with it to get clicks. Fuck y'all, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, I definitely could see him doing that. I think he probably isn't self-aware enough about how he's coming across, you know what I mean? And I think you're definitely right. Most people have that filter. And I personally have been able to, like, I can see what he's trying to say and discern it and not, like, look at it from a sensitive point of view and, like, really just try to hear what he's saying. But for the masses, for you to go on public platforms, you know, and I respect a lot of the things he says, especially when he talks about like, you know, wanting to invest in entrepreneurs and like, you know, teaching college kids that when he goes there speaking about like, you know, them empowering themselves and empowering the arts, right? Yeah. All that stuff is amazing. I just don't think he is the right brand ambassador for that, you know, because he, I think, is so passionate about what he's saying. He gets overly emotional and caught up in the moment and just his entire messaging gets lost. And then, yes, obviously the media is going to sensationalize it for clicks. And, you know, and then he just basically looks like a crazy person and you can't really believe kind of what he says at that point, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that, I don't know what the disconnect is, and maybe he's doing it on purpose. I don't know.
I mean, listen, but he might be the ultimate troll. You know? I mean, you know, I've been a huge Kanye fan from the start, so it's an interesting kind of, you know, thing to kind of look at as a fan. And like sometimes you're like, okay, cool, you know, I get it. Other times like I can't, you know, I get right what you're saying, bro. But I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. He could strike me as somebody who could be doing a lot of things on purpose as well. You know, right. I've heard. I want to say when that whole TMZ thing came up, he kind of, you know, wasn't shying away from it and was like, you know, definitely putting on a little bit more of a show. You know, especially the second time around when he went up there.
I mean, it's TMZ, so I guess maybe that's...
Yeah. I mean, I think he knew what he was doing to a degree. You know, I think he knows what he's doing when he puts on the MAGA hat, you know. I think he knows that even if he sort of respects Trump or however he wants to word it, I think he knows when he puts that hat on, people are really going to have a feeling about it and they're going to talk about him. And I think, you know, to a degree, he enjoys
probably likes that.
Yeah, he enjoys being... Again, Kanye loves Kanye. We know that. You know what I mean? Like, so I think he enjoys it.
Yeah, I honestly felt bad for him with that whole MAGA hat situation because, like, again, I knew exactly what he was trying to do. He's like, are we really going to let this fucking hat with some simple font on it piss us off? Nah, dude, let me put this shit on and let me try to rebrand this thing. Like, that's what he was trying to do. Yeah. And he just went about it the wrong way with not even bad intentions. Just like, that's just what happened. And, you know, you can't, I'm sure he has to understand, like, yo, this is just, it is what it is. Like, this is the cost of doing business, I guess. You know, like,
I mean, I think you know, regardless of what your political views are, I think what he wasn't understanding, you know, by him sort of trying to take away the power of that hat he is then reinforcing those who don't understand that that's what he's doing. You know what I mean? So like the Trump supporters are like, fuck yeah, Kanye's on board now. And they don't get that he's maybe trying to like, take away the power of it, you know? And that's what he, I think, doesn't really understand. If he does understand it, he just doesn't give a shit, I don't know.
That was my guess. He's like, all right, fuck these guys.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably like, listen, I know what I believe and that's all that matters. You know what I mean? But like, I think when you're that big, are you able to really realize how much influence you have?
I'm sure that's got to be a factor. I'm sure, and also I just think like that's just who he is. Like he's going to wear polos when everyone wasn't. He's going to, do Yeezus when everyone else was like, "What the fuck is this?" Shit? You know what I mean? So I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on Yeezus personally as a DJ / just a fan of music? I
mean, it's definitely not anything I could play in the club. I would say it's an album that I appreciate, but I don't want to listen to it from front to back.
Right.
I'll be like, I'm in kind of a mood for it, and I'll skip around songs, and I like certain songs. But I'm not like from front to back, this is a masterpiece. I'm like, as I felt that way about like Late Registration, and all that stuff. Like I loved it. From front to back, I could still go listen to it. College Dropout, still go listen to it, front to back.
Right.
But Yeezus, it was like, I think this is amazing how he's experimenting with sounds and just sonically as like a music head. I was like, this is crazy. And I appreciate it for that. But I don't feel a need to kind of always bump it or anything like that.
Actually, do you feel like do you have like a personal favorite as far as music goes, as far as genres? And do you like find yourself gravitating more to things that you can play as a DJ, like, I like the song, and part of the reason is because I know I can play it. Like, is that ever a factor? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I find myself listening to music for pleasure less and less, as far as like looking for new music. Like, I'm not out researching new music to just listen to for myself, whereas, prior to DJing and become my job, it was like I was always just looking for something cool to listen to,
Right.
So now, it's like if I'm looking for new music, it's like, can I play this in the club? Is it something that is topical right now that I have to know about this record because I work in radio?
Right.
But outside of that, like as far as like for leisure, I listen to a lot of the same stuff. It's a lot of like, records I've listened to for years, and obviously occasionally there'll be like certain songs that'll pop up and I'm like, all right, this is a cool record to listen to, but I'm not as active in that. For me, if I'm finding new music, it's because I want something I can play in the club, something I need to know for radio, for work, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. I get so jealous of musical acts, let alone like DJs who are, successful only because I'm not, no. But as a comedian, it's tough because like you can travel with like nostalgic hits.
Yeah.
Like I can't travel with like old jokes. I mean, you can to some extent, especially if they're very good jokes.
Yeah.
Like you can tell over and over. Like I'll listen to the same Chappelle bits over and over and still laugh.
Yeah.
But it's just harder because there's like a shelf life basically for jokes as opposed to music. Like you guys were talking to Lester, like, people are still bumping, calling to this day as if it just came out. And that's like, oh man, how good does that have to feel to like have that in your back pocket? Like,
Yeah, I mean, that's like part of the beauty of music is because you can hear something and it takes you back to that moment. You know what I mean? Like I can remember hearing Calling for the first time when I first started getting really into DJing and EDM, and just how gigantic it felt whenever I heard it somewhere. And it's the same thing with like whether it's classic hip hop or whatever it is. Like you can play records and it brings people back. You know what I mean? And it's probably something they're also not listening to in their car on a regular basis. So like that's the beauty of like that. But yeah. That's the beauty of music is that you have the ability to really take people on a journey, kind of, without getting too corny about this whole thing. But
no, let's get corny, baby.
But I mean, that's like the beauty of it, It's like there's emotion attached to it whether you realize it or not,
Right. And that's regardless of the drugs.
Yeah. Regardless. I mean, but if the drugs are really good.
Yeah, man. It's you got a very interesting setup here. What are your hours like? Like, what time are you getting to the Breakfast Club studios? Like what kind of grueling schedule are we looking at?
Man, so I wake up at 3 a.m. every morning.
Jesus Christ.
And I guess I don't have to be there till 5, but I wake up at 3 and I'll try and just like do something for myself, basically, is to not feel like I'm only working,
Right.
So I'll wake up, I'll like meditate, get my head right, get my coffee, my to-do list for the day or whatever it is. And then I'll try to, for like an hour, work on something for myself that doesn't have to do with like the radio station. So whether it's like, something for my podcast or my music, whatever it is, I'll try to do that, first. So at least I feel like, okay, I got like something creative for myself out of the way. And then I'll get to the radio station around 5 a.m. And depending on how many interviews we have that day, I could, leave around 11 a.m. or it might be that's like 1-ish, And if the Breakfast Club ends, let's say at 11, a lot of times I got to go record my podcast. So that'll go till about 12:30. I'll usually like get home, eat, take a nap, wake up, and then just like get in the studio, work on music, do any emails I got to do, any creative stuff. And that goes on until probably, I don't know, 9:30. And then I've been trying to stick to that schedule, keep my head right.
It's got to be tough with the DJing too, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, yeah. I mean, there are times if I DJ during the week, I literally just go straight from the club to the radio station. I'll take like a long nap in the middle of the day, and that's what I do with that. So it's always like random. If there's an event and I'm like out here in the city, I got to go to, I'll just hang out. Then yeah, I'll get home, 12 or 1, and wake up in 2 hours or whatever, and go do the same thing. But I'm always moving. I think the only time I'm like chilling is usually like at that 9 o'clock-ish point. I'll like try and like unwind and like read a book or something, and then to go to bed to like get myself together for the next day. Right. But it's always random. Like you try to stick to a schedule, but I read a lot of books as far as like what people do who are successful and like this, their schedules they set out for themselves and things like that. But mine is so all over the place that I can't always stay on top of it. You kind of just do your best to manage it.
Yeah, just got some more vintage clothes.
Yeah, no, dude. I know. Yeah, just fucking sell a little more vintage clothes.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer. So, this has been fun, man.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been told I have a radio voice, but I definitely cannot wake up at 3:30 in the morning.
Dude, I know it's a whole lifestyle change. I went from the opposite. Originally, I was doing overnights where I was working from midnight to 6 a.m. And that was, I didn't mind that. And this is like pretty brutal. If I didn't love the show, I probably wouldn't be able to do it.
I mean, it better be the fucking Breakfast Club.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. It would be really rare for you to get me up at this time. Like, yeah, it's definitely like, because I enjoy being there. Even if I'm like, fuck, my alarm is going off, I'm tired, I'm miserable. Like once I get in that studio, I feel good. Like I'm energized. I feel like I'm happy to be there. The time flies by, honestly. Right.
All right, so why don't you plug yourself, plug your stuff again, where we can find you, man.
All right, so all socials are at DJ Dramos, and I'm really active on Instagram, so that's probably the place I would always tell people to go hit me up.
Yeah, so you upload like a couple of days in the live videos.
Yeah, day in live videos. I try to go live on there like once or twice a week and just like bullshit with people and like answer questions and give advice if I can. So always try to be really active on there. Cult Classics is my vintage company, so it's just cvltclassics.com. You can check that stuff out, and I have music out, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you find music, just search for Dramos. I got some singles out and then an EP coming probably next month.
One last question, actually. Yep. What the fuck is the difference? EP, LP, fucking album, record? Like what's going on here?
So an EP is generally like anything less than probably I would say 7 songs. Okay. Some people might say 8. Anything more than that is considered an LP or a full length album. Okay. So like an EP usually is just kind of like a shorter version. It's a project basically. It's like not quite an album, but it's more than just putting out one record.
But does it matter? Like does the lengths really mean anything? I got an LP coming out. Yeah. Versus I got an EP coming. I was like, I don't want to listen to that. Right. It's only an EP. Like,
no, I think in today's day and age, the EP is probably more valuable because people's attention spans are a little shorter. Like. It's rare for me to want to listen to an album from front to back, a new album, whereas an EP, like I think what Kanye was doing, I hate to keep talking about Kanye, goddamn, but what he did last summer, all those 7-song projects, I think was perfect. It's amazing. I think that is probably the future of the industry and what it should be. And I think the thing you want to do as opposed to like singles is when you put out an EP, at least it's a project. It's a cohesive project where you can put together, songs that maybe go well into one another and like there might be able to be a theme behind it, where you're able to do that, which, people always did with albums. You're able to still do that, but it's not as short as just like a single, you know what I mean? But I think EPs to me are the wave. Like I can definitely make it through an EP front to back, but a full length album is a little bit much.
So is an album, are all albums LPs?
Yeah, any album is that's like whatever 9 songs, 10 songs. That's a full length album or an LP.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
No worries. Here
anything else you wanted to mention? Or
no, I think that's it. I mean, I have my Dream Dealers podcast, which I'm excited about. That's a new one.
What's the difference between that and what was it?
Beats and Booze, right? So Beats and Booze is more just music based. It's a lot of like bro talk, a lot of like dick talk. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. And farting and shitting, whatever you want to talk about. But the Dream Dealers one it's live, which is cool. So I do it on Instagram Live. Okay. So it's in a live setting. We might fuck up, we might not. And also people can have people leave questions, so you can actually interact with the show, which is really cool. Gotcha. And in that one, I'm focusing on interviewing not just music people, but people who are entrepreneurs, influencers, tech people, anybody that to me is utilizing modern technology to create their own opportunities. Right. Those are the people that I'm focusing on with that. For this one, I wanted to do something that inspired people, something that was informative, and something that encouraged people to kind of take things in their own hands and create their own opportunities. We're also blessed to live in a time right now where we can do this and come our own home. Yeah,
tell me about it, man. Yeah, because I actually I'm glad you mentioned that because like as a doctor, you know, a lot of times, a lot of people aren't doing what I'm doing as far as like the creative space
Yeah.
and working all this other stuff. So like, I can't tell you how many like kids will reach out, slide into the DMs just because of me goofing off with all these sneakers, because that's the majority of what my YouTube channel stuff is.
Yeah.
And they'll just be like, yo, man, I'm so inspired to go into medical school now, or like pursue my master's degree, or do well in school, or whatever. So I feel like that's, no offense to DJs or, you know, other musical acts, but I feel like we always put them and athletes up on the pedestal of like, yo, this is your inspiration. It's just like, yo, there's like other things that you can be inspired by. You know?
No, I mean, listen, man, that's the beauty of it. It's like, dude, anybody can do these things now. You know, like you potentially are connected to anybody in the world just by this tiny little device. You know, and like you said, I mean, if you have a passion for something, like you no longer, there's no like gate or entryway to do it. Like there's no difficult thing to do it. Like, listen, if you like doing radio, start a podcast, and like that's fun for you. You know what I mean? Like if you like music, you could do it on the side and put it up on SoundCloud. Like, you know, whatever it is, that's the beauty of it, of this time period right now, is like you can create whatever the hell you want to do. You just gotta take advantage of it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the idea with like the Dream Dose podcast, is just focusing on people, showcasing that from all different walks of life and aspects of life, and you know, kind of just showing people what the hell they could do. I'm a big fan of, you know, the internet, and I mean, it's the reason we're here right now talking, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm always, if I go to a different city, I'm always hitting up DJs in that city through Instagram and just linking up with people randomly, you know? So that's the concept of the podcast, and just something that I believe in, and I'm just super excited to like not only have like, you know, all the music stuff and the fun stuff, but also be able to showcase that side and kind of give back, I think, to people, you know, that are following me, and you know, hopefully add some sort of value to their life aside from just like entertainment, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's dope, man.
Thank you.
So yeah, appreciate you coming on.
Of course, bro. Thank you for having me.
Definitely check out his stuff. Not hard to find. DJ Dramos.
Yes, everything at DJ Dramos.
All right, man. Thanks for coming. We'll see you guys around. Peace.